The little red town of Kirriemuir in Angus, with its distinctive red sandstone buildings, is famous for its gingerbread, Bon Scott of AC/DC and the yearly Bonfest, and author and playwright J.M. Barrie, who was born in a cottage in the town. That cottage hit the headlines in the later 1920s and during the 1930s, when its future was brought into question. By 1931, Sir James Matthew Barrie's birthplace at 9 Brechin Road in Kirriemuir, or Kirrie as it's known by locals, had been sold twice since the departure of the Barrie family. The property, along with its small wash house at its rear, had been bought by a local mill owner, then sold to financier Major R.D. Lauder, a London-based Scot from the Scottish borders, in 1928. Lauder put it up for sale again in 1930, giving the local town council the first option of purchasing it. This was the second time in 2 years that the council had been offered the chance to buy it, and both times by Lauder's solicitors, the first being John Whammond of Meiklehill House in Kirriemuir, the second a firm in London. However, the Provost, H.E. Peacock, told Lauder's solicitor he didn't have the power to buy it, unless there was a public willingness to do so, and a meeting would have to be called. At the time, Lauder also suggested the little wash-house, where Barrie had put on his first plays as a child, be removed and rebuilt at Kensington Gardens in London. Soon afterwards, it was sold to Sir William Lacon Threlford, a retired accountant and founder of the Institute of Linguists, who lived at Prince's Gate in London. During a visit to the area, he saw that the house was for sale. He made an appointment to see it, had a look round, and put in an offer, which was accepted. His intention was that he would safeguard it until it was purchased for the nation. He had been a frequent visitor to Kirriemuir and was a great admirer of Barrie's works. However, in June 1937, Threlford decided to put the house back on the market, with one of the most audacious marketing ploys ever thought up, and one that had been used in the late 1920s. As news spread, he spoke to reporters about the sale, stating, "I have had a number of business propositions, and although in my heart I would like the cottage to stay in Kirriemuir, I have, as a businessman, been considering them." He said one of the offers he'd received was from a hotel in Ramsgate, which wanted to set up the cottage in their ground as a tourist attraction for visitors, and giving them a chance to see the house where J.M. Barrie, the author of Peter Pan, had been born. He also claimed he had another offer from America. In order to stop the house being transported, he suggested a fund be set up so that it would remain where it was, and he would sell it at cost price if this materialised. The following month, in July 1937, the plan to ship the cottage to America, stone by stone, was thwarted when Duncan Elliot Alves of Brinbrass Castle, North Wales, and Devonshire House in Piccadilly in London put in an offer which was accepted. 67-year-old Alves, a Scot who'd been born in Dunedin, New Zealand, knew Barrie well, although was not an intimate friend. They mainly met at social functions and at gatherings for charitable organisations. He had returned to England with his parents when he was 17 and went on to become Mayor of Carnarvon and High Sheriff of Carnarvonshire, gaining the freedom of Carnarvon in 1931. He felt it would be a shame to see the cottage dismantled and shipped piece by piece over the Atlantic, so for purely philosophical reasons decided to buy it and save it as a memorial for Scotland. He did this without even visiting the cottage, and believed he would never do so. However, he took the steps to see that it was handed over to the National Trust for Scotland, and made an endowment to be set aside for its preservation and its upkeep. He never revealed the money involved in either the endowment or the purchase, but he did say that he'd paid much more than he'd anticipated. He knew, however, that if he hadn't bought the cottage, it would have undoubtedly have gone to America, which Barrie would have loathed, he said. The reason he didn't reveal how much he'd paid was that he feared he would receive a large number of begging letters, which, he said, were so difficult to refuse. In a joint statement on his purchase, Threlford's solicitors Kenneth Brown, Baker and Baker, and Alves' solicitors Leach, Sims & Co. announced his gift to the nation of the cottage. It was further hoped that Alves' creation of a fund to help children would enhance the cottage's use, which he believed was uppermost in the mind of Sir J.M. Barrie. Threlford's ploy had worked. Just before this, the idea of a Barrie museum had been touted, and the synod of the original Cessation Church, which owned the Auld Licht manse, had agreed to sell it for that very purpose. Barrie himself had offered assistance in the matter, but died on 19th June 1937, before it came to fruition. Today, the cottage where Barrie was born on 9th May 1860 is a tourist attraction, still owned by the National Trust for Scotland. It is visited by countless tourists every year to see where the author grew up and the influences that surrounded his works. If you enjoyed this video from Scotland's history, please like, comment and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.